Welcome back to Callahan's Corner, where you ask the questions, we answer them live right here on Facebook. Got a user submitted issue in one of the user groups here for Service Autopilot. Going to read just a snippet of it. I don't believe this is actually the user's error, but I am going to be talking about some best practice, how to avoid this, and actually go out and hopefully give Kelly some safeguards, how to protect herself and anybody else watching this when you're sending out bulk emails of several thousand emails plus or text messages. Obviously, want to make sure they've opted in appropriately. But I'm going to talk about how to do this. So she said that Kelly said we sent out a marketing email yesterday to approximately 4,000 leads they've gathered since 2017. So congrats, Kelly. Love the fact that you're going out and gathering your leads and segmenting. We're going to talk about that later in the video, how we talk about where they're at in the customer life cycle. After a few hours, people started contacting her back, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, it looked like this email blast had gone into somewhat of an infinite loop. Not sure the details on it, but obviously not a great situation here. So we want to be able to go in, Kelly, and everybody else watching this. How do we send automated emails, not necessarily an email blast, it was in Kelly's situation, but in an automation to go in and protect yourself and adhere to life cycle marketing and be able to talk to the clients where they're at in the customer life cycle and have an automated but personal conversation. And it's going to be the segmentation and tag naming conventions here. When I open up my screen, they're going to actually allow you to protect yourself no matter the software you're using, whether it's Service Autopilot, MailChimp, Copilot, any of the other softwares out there that have these automations, as well as even Jobber. This tag segmentation is going to protect you as a business owner to make sure that if the software got into an infinite loop and started sending out emails, that you would be protected. So I'm going to recommend in most scenarios, we don't want to do an email blast, but what we really want to do is set an automation with segmentation by tags, and this would protect you now and in the future. So I'm going to open up my screen and kind of lift the hood of what we do for several hundred, actually more than that, people on a yearly basis with automations. And this is a secret to what I was doing in my lawn care company, believe it or not, probably 9 or 10 years ago. And now we have Simple Growth that actually helps people go out and do this in their business. So I'm going to kind of just give you the foundational areas. So as we're looking at a business, the first thing we want to look at before we get into the segmentation is what are the core areas in our business that we can actually automate. And this is going to make a little more sense on the next screen because we're going to create naming conventions and tag segmentation to go in and protect you when you're sending out these email blasts or text messages. So the first areas that we're looking at is marketing, sales, fulfillment, finance, and the fifth one there is internal / I like to call HR. So those are the 5 areas in most service businesses we can actually go out and automate. And the next piece we're going into here is going in and talking about segmentation. So Kelly went in and it sounds like she may have segmented some things, but I'm guessing there may not have been the complexity of the tags. And Kelly, if no one's shown you this, there's no way you would know. So I'm going to break it down for you step by step how we do this in Simple Growth. First thing we want to do is go in and segment. So we want to go in and talk about the client life cycle or life cycle marketing. New term now they're using out there is life cycle automations. But what we need to do is take a look at it, and we want to go literally through tag segmentation. So I'm going to show you some naming conventions that you can actually copy and use that we use in my business. But we want to talk about a prospect who say is interested in, let's just say holiday lights. That's one of Kelly's services. And then we have a prospect that has submitted an estimate that needs to be finished for holiday lights. And then we have a prospect with an estimate that is not accepted or denied that. So this is the segmentation that we're looking at. Then we either have a person who's accepted the estimate or is not. And if they're not a current client, we have a client or a lost estimate or a lost lead. Now, why this is important is this segmentation is going to, if we're done correctly with the tags and things I'm going to show you, will not allow an automated email or text messaging system to get into an infinite loop type situation, because the segmentation is going to go in and pop those in certain areas. So in the early days of when we automated on Service Autopilot in the beta area, we would actually be able to tell their developers when they were building the automations where there was a bug or it was broken before they could actually see it in the source code based on the clarity of these tags, and these tags are going to protect you. So once you have a client now and a lost estimate or a lost lead, we have a canceled client as well. So those are the segmentation. And then eventually we're going to talk about database segmentation of what I think Kelly was trying to do is go in and upsell some services. And we're going to talk about best practice. If you missed my talk at ServEdge conference, we talked about this in detail. But as we segment them, the benefits here is we're going to be able to go and educate the specific services they're interested in and overcome any sales or price objections to that specific service. And then we're going to be able to sell on a very personal level and go in and follow up in a process we call 20 days to close. And that's going to be the perfect mix of sending automated emails based on that life cycle to follow up on each and every estimate. If you're not following up on your estimates at least 5 or more times, statistically, you're missing out 80% of sales in your local market. So this is really, really important. But once again, I'm going to suggest for most scenarios, we want us to keep away from these email blasts because they can get you in trouble. But if we're segmenting our database right from prospect all the way through canceled client, that is going to protect us and create an automated personal conversation. So now we dive into naming conventions. And this is where the key to this is. And this is where a lot of times when people talk about Simple Growth, well, why do we pay a monthly support and update fee? Part of it is this, as I'm actually showing here. So we can actually go in and track these different statuses. And if there's an issue, within minutes, we can actually go in, but we're looking at thousands of hours that have been invested into building this out. But if you're building it yourself, I want to be able to give you the ability to actually track this. Now, to my knowledge, in the service industry area, there is no other automation company that goes to this detail, but that's the secret to the success that we've had at Simple Growth and my lawn care company. So what we want to do is basically create 5 categories of tagging conventions. Now, if we go back 3 screens here, remember, there's core areas of automations that we can automate in your service business: marketing, sales, fulfillment, finance, and internal/HR. Now, we want to create tags to be able to track that customer journey. So the first one is literally 01 dot space, the actual status. And that is a naming convention and a standardization that is really, really important when you do this. But the 01 status is basically, where is somebody in your campaigns? So in the first example of that customer journey, they have requested an estimate for holiday lights or lawn mowing, but they haven't received it yet. And then once the estimate is received, we have an estimate received, but it has not been won or lost. Those are the statuses we're looking at. So that's 01 status. And it's literally 01 dot space, the status that you have. The next thing is O2 history. Where have they been? So we have the status of where they're at and the last place they've been. So in Kelly's scenario, if there was a confusion in the software and she had called us, most likely we would be able to go in based on those history tags and actually stop those automated emails from happening based on the segmentation, because we know where they're at and where last place they've been. We know where they're at. So we have some logic built in to be able to kick them out. So that is where you're at, where you've been. And that's going to follow you throughout the whole automated process. Profile keeps track of data not stored in a custom field. So if there's anything we want to keep on the profile is profile customer, profile lead, profile canceled customer. So in Kelly's case, if she wanted to have separate communication based on the customer profile that was not stored in a custom field, that would end up on our O3 profile tag. So the fourth one is a to-do, or if you're using Service Autopilot, this would actually be a ticket at this point. So Dave Long, I believe it was, and a day or two ago, asked a question about how do we go from the manual process of taking a website request that goes to the My Day screen, and now I have to approve and do some manual work. What we would do here is actually go in and create the V2 or V3 form on an auto create or update lead that would automatically create the lead in the system. And then based on an O4 profile tag, which is now a to-do or basically a ticket, that profile or the to-do tag would be applied through an automation and create a ticket assigned to a specific person with a deadline for accountability that can be tracked through the filtering. So now we're starting to manually avoid these manual tasks, and we're going to leverage the power of the software to automate these systems. Now, The fifth one is our O5 or 05 system tag. It tells SA or whatever the automation platform what to do. And what happens here is it literally is our automated start and stop button. So those are our, when we go into build an automation, depending on your platform, whether it's Service Autopilot, Copilot, or Keep, this tag is going to be our trigger to start or stop. Now, what we've done is been able to track the status of where they're at, the status of where they're currently at, the history of the last place they've been, the profile, any data that is on the client that's not stored in a custom field, any tickets or to-dos that are triggered, and then system tags literally are kind of the analogy of when you were a kid going to the carnival or an amusement park. That's your ticket to get on and off the ride or the automation. And that's how we stop the system from inadvertently going out and pushing out multiple communication points to the same person in error. And if that happens, that's one of the benefits 99% of the time. If you're working with SimpleGrowth, we can actually go in and figure that out and stop that repetitive cycle that happened to Kelly by mistake. And I don't think that was Kelly's fault, but I've never seen the inside of that automation, the email blast. But from what she said, we definitely need to be able to stop that. And this is how we would be able to stop that filtering down in these tags and segment. So the last thing here is, now that we've got our 5 areas that we can automate, we've got our 5 sets of tags that are based on the main areas here of status, history, profile, to do, and system, all around our 5 areas of marketing, sales, fulfillment, finance, and internal HR. What do we do to actually name these automations? Now, like I said, don't really recommend using email blast because it's really hard, and that's where some errors are going to happen. But if we have those areas in our business we can automate, you can notice the tags here was 01, 02, 03, 04, 05. And now our tags here are 10, 20, 30, 40. These are the naming conventions for the actual campaigns. So our campaign areas is going to be 10 marketing, 20 sales, 30 fulfillment, 40 finance, and 50 HR. Those are the 5 areas that we can automate. And now what we've done is segmented our database to not only where the leads our clients are, canceled clients, but now we have segmentation of our campaigns. So once again, the ability to go in quickly. If there's ever an issue, we need to update these. We can go in and see all our plays for marketing, sales, fulfillment, finance, and internal HR. These are the keys to success in a fully automated business. And once again, a email blast is going to be really a manual process. So I'm not really recommending another manual process that if you delegate it, potentially could be an error. So as we're looking at this on a very, very high level, people may ask, Mike, where does this all play out? And this is an older version of our automations here, but I want to just touch on it on a high level because this is where the magic will happen. So just like David talked about earlier in the Facebook group this week, website request here up on the upper left, V3 form with duplicate check, and we automatically create that lead and we enter them into your software program, or if they come in through the office, we get them in. First thing we want to do is automatically now, automated but personal, a lead letter. These are 5 or 6 reasons why your business is different, why people want to work with you as a professional. No sales pitch. It is literally just differentiating you. Now, where an email blast would be really tough to do here, we have an automated segmentation based here, and it's called short-term education. And what that is that is going to educate them to the specific service they're interested in. And now that we've segmented them based on those tags and naming conventions and the different automation types, we're able to have a personalized but automated communication through this based on the specific service they're interested in. So in Kelly's example, if they're talking about holiday lights, something they do in the fall, we're able to talk about how a professional company sets up the holiday lights, why we're probably using LED C9s, how we're using mini lights in the trees, so on and so forth. What happens if a light bulb goes out? What happens if I have an issue? All those things are addressed here. So what we've done is created you as the expert, and we talk about the questions they have. So we're talking about, what if it's inclement? If the weather's not good, are they going to hang the lights that day? What if somebody falls off the roof? Is the insurance going to cover that? Or is it the homeowner's insurance? But all those concerns they have, we address through education up front. So we're going to shorten that sales cycle through education. We're going to create a higher perceived value. Next spot over here is going to be our estimate follow-up. So once again, not really used in an email blast, but basically When the estimate is submitted to the client or lead, if it's not accepted, we follow up for 20 days through automated email, text message, and something called ringless voicemail bomb. Hits the cell phone on file, looks like a missed call, and it's a personal call or message saying, hey, it's Mike from Callahan. So sorry I missed you. Just following up on the estimate we dropped off 2 days ago. If you have any questions, call me back at this number, or feel free to accept the online estimate. Once again, though, if you're not following up 5 or more times over multiple communication channels, fancy term for it is omni-channel marketing, you're missing out on about 80% of the sales in your local market. Next thing is our one process here. So this is, once again, we're segmenting them based on where they're at in the customer life cycle. And that's done through those tags, status and history tags, and potentially that profile tag. If we're sending out a welcome package, that would also be that basically to do or ticket tag as well that I showed you in the naming convention. So someone's on the hook to do that. But what we're going to do is send an automated email, welcome them, and acclimate them to working with your company. And if we require a credit card on file, automated, we're going to have a a PCI compliant credit card form automatically emailed. Now, once again, with the tags based on status and history we just talked about, we're going to go down to the next area here where it's a 30, 60, and 90-day follow-up. So if the profile on the service they've done is a reoccurring service, we're going to follow up 30, 60, and 90 days with an automated email that looks personal from your office. If they signed up for a one-time service, once again, that profile and some of the other tags we talked about are going to segment it. We'll know it is a one-time service, so we only follow up. So that is how we're going to start to make sure we do not have multiple emails going out for a one-time service. Database segmentation with very clearly defined tagging structure. Next thing is happy holidays. We're going to go in and wish them a happy holiday around your New Year's Eve, Labor Day, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. And then following into that is our newsletter campaign. We're going to go in and educate them what they need to be doing in their yard or home the month advance. So going into the spring season here, we should have already sent out, if we do fertilization and weed control, a pre-emergent newsletter about how we actually the difference between pre-emergent and post-emergent, and why it's important to get those pre-emergents in the lawn and the landscape beds at a certain timing. No sales pitch, we're educating, but a lot of times that transitions into a sale. And then the next thing we're going to do is go into our process over here, and I'm going to recommend between 5 and 8 upsells. Now, I think this is where Kelly did that email blast. And no fault of her own, but if we had done it through an automated system, it would have been able to go in and only go out once. And if there was an error on the software system she was sending it on, based on those history and status tags, someone should have probably been able to go in and actually stop that for her. But the idea is we want to be able to go in, and the secret sauce is here, automated, but personal. So what we do is we look at several factors when we send these upsells. Do they have an estimate in play for this service? Has it been performed in X amount of days? Because if they had just had the service done, we're not going to upsell. It would look foolish. The next one we're going to do is go in and see, do they already have the service? And if they have the service, is it on a waiting list or on a schedule? There's a few others that we dive into, but those are the big hitters. And the key to this is when we go in, we want that automation to trigger within minutes, if not almost immediately, before the automated email goes out. And that gets that personal but automated capability. And it sweeps through those statuses and the history and the profiles. And if it meets the criteria, we go out. And we're seeing 60 to 80 estimate requests in 24 to 48 hours on these upsells. Massive, massive return on investment with the automations. Now, why I can speak to this is if you need to stop those automations, it can be done. And we go out into 3 different upsell communications per upsell of the 5 to 8 we recommend. So this would have avoided Kelly's issue, because a lot of our clients have such a return on the first 1 or 2 communications. They will literally email us or hop into our chat or call the Simple Growth office and say, Mike and team, please turn off the last communication for the upsells, because we have literally hit our capacity in the spring for, say, aeration or overseeding or pruning or mulching. Not uncommon. We'll see people in the first 24 to 48 hours, if they've got a decent lead base like Kelly does, to get 60 to 80 estimate requests. We have literally sold 250 to 300 aeration jobs in the fall for clients in about a week and a half, fully automated off these upsells, to the point where they don't have the capacity to meet the demand that their client base has. So they will call or message us and say, hey, please turn off the third communication. And if you follow what we talked about in the beginning of the video based on your tag segmentation and the naming convention of your automation campaigns or plays, you can easily go in and stop those communications. And that's something that Chad and the Simple Growth team and our launch and support team do all the time. So if you follow the naming conventions here, I'm going to hop back quickly just to show you. We're looking at the categories of tags, status, history, profile, to do, which if you're using SA now is tickets and system tags. And then we want to go in and set naming conventions around the different campaigns or plays of marketing, sales, fulfillment, finance, and internal HR. Those are the keys to have a personalized but automated system that is totally turnkey, that does not revolve around the business owner or manager or owner's spouse or husband. And that will allow you to have success. So once again, email blasts are great, but they can open up yourself to some danger because it's a click it and kind of let it go. With the automations, when they're built out and flushed out, that is going to avoid a lot of those issues. And it would give you the ability in most cases to stop any communication or error on the software as well, to get that out, because the segmentation would be able to be sorted by the software company or somebody like Simple Growth to actually filter down on those tags and stop it. So Callahan's Corner, US questions, we had some live right here on Facebook.